Hello and welcome to Friends with Deficits. I'm your host, Adam Sultan, and my next friend is Scott Moroschan. Scott works as a perfumer by day and a creative entrepreneur the rest of the time. I don't know how he manages to get so much done. Maybe he gets plenty of iron. Turns out I might be right. We'll talk about that and a lot of other things. Let it be known that I'm a huge frag head, or very into fragrance and perfume, and this conversation could have been a lot longer, and in fact a lot of it was off the record because it wasn't relating to the topic at hand. But if you're interested, you may hear some excerpts of that on our Patreon page at patreon.com/friendswithdeficits. Check it out. And for now, let's check out my conversation with Scott Moroschan. I understand your work to be both as a perfumer and a creative entrepreneur. Can you either talk a little bit about both of those and which takes priority over the other?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, my day job, I'm a professional perfumer. I've been doing this since 1996. Originally, I started my working career as a chemist in the United States, and I had the opportunity to become a perfumer in Germany. That's why I relocated to Germany. And more or less, since 1996, with the exception of a few pauses, creating fragrances for companies all around the world is my day job. Yeah, this is like a normal 9-to-5 job. This is a great career that I enjoy very much, and it's definitely my main priority. But at heart, I see myself as being more than one thing. So I also consider myself to be a creative entrepreneur. Yeah, this is an interest that, I follow my passion to make art. And also, as you're aware, I'm now writing a book about perfumery. And for me, these things are sort of like I wouldn't say a side hustle. For me, it's more like a hope job. I hope these things lead to something more interesting.
Do you have time to have the day job and be a entrepreneur and write this book and everything?
Yes, quite difficult. Yes, I do have the time. It just boils down to using the time wisely. So, like I said, I'm working a 40-hour week. I'm quite lucky. I have a very good employer, which expects me only to work about 40 hours a week. So I'm not having to work like 60, 80-hour weeks at my day job. So instead of watching TV or Netflix, things like this, I try to invest my free time into my creative projects. And if I'm not working on my creative projects, I'm spending time with my wife, I'm doing sport, things like that.
What's the name of the company? Do you just work for one perfume company right now?
Yeah, I work for a family company in Hamburg, Germany. It's called Dualberg Concentra. I think basically everyone on the planet would not be familiar with this company. It's one of the smaller fragrance companies, but we are in the third generation of the family company. We create the fragrance oils that other companies use in their fine fragrances, personal care products like creams, shower gels. I also create fragrances for household products like surface cleaners, like all-purpose cleaners, fabric softeners, scented candles. Basically, we're creating fragrances for every scented product that exists.
So more of like a perfume house kind of thing as opposed to fine fragrance?
I also do a lot of fine fragrance. This is one nice thing about working for Dualberg Concentra is, I have the freedom to work on all products, everything from fine fragrance to a bathroom cleaner. Whereas if I were to work in a bigger company, which I've done in the past, you're normally boxed into like one category. So there's professional perfumers who are just working on, let's say, fabric softeners and nothing else. So this is a really interesting part of my work because I'm really not boxed into anything. Of course, my daily work revolves around creating fragrances for other companies. But saying that, every day I have the opportunity to create what I would like for myself. And this is actually a big part of me growing as a creative, as a perfumer, exploring my own curiosities. So more or less, I do this as a learning process. So normally I'm creating a lot of fine fragrances for my own use. My wife, she's the lucky recipient of a lot of new fragrance creations. I also share with like friends and acquaintances to get feedback. But as far as having my own niche brand, no, I don't have, at this time, I don't have my own line of fragrances, but this is something that I hope to do in the future. I'm posting quite regularly, so I'm posting on LinkedIn, but I'm only posting about emotional fragrance design because this is my greatest interest. And I think what emotional fragrance design boils down to is one, how to make fragrances that evoke the desired emotions of consumers. And I believe if you evoke the correct emotions, then you trigger memories and emotions within that person that help them feel more like their self identity, or even desired identity. But the big question is, for me, which I've been thinking about recently, is most people like many fragrances. But the question is, why are there one or two or very few fragrances that we really are attracted to, that when we wear them or we use a certain scented product, that it makes us feel more confident, more like ourselves? So for me, it's like there's a spectrum. There's fragrances we don't like, there's fragrances they're okay, and others, we're saying, oh, that's a really nice fragrance. But then why is it there's some fragrances which we absolutely love? And I believe the reason behind this is emotions. So this is where emotional fragrance design comes in. Somehow these fragrances must be triggering these desired emotional states within us, and maybe also a combination of desired emotional states and memories, associations. So it's a complicated topic, and more or less, that's my thoughts on it at the moment.
Okay. I have many more thoughts on it, but I'll leave that for another conversation, because I would love to talk about that a lot. So let's talk about what you came to talk about, which is hemochromatosis. Is that correct?
Hemochromatosis. Yeah. So this is my deficit.
Okay.
Basically, hemochromatosis is a genetic condition. I inherited some genes from both my mother and my father's side, which basically causes my body to absorb too much iron. So a lot of people are familiar with people who are anemic, who don't have enough iron in their body, so they're prone to like fainting or bruising, this sort of thing. Well, I actually have the exact opposite. My body just takes up too much, and the extra is not eliminated through urine or something like this. So unfortunately, if it's left untreated, all of this extra iron ends up getting stored throughout all of the body. So all the wrong places. So in the liver, the heart, the brain, the joints. And if it's not diagnosed and not treated, this condition results in an early death.
Oh, man. When were you diagnosed?
Yeah, fortunately, I was diagnosed. I wonder, for instance, I lost my father when I was 20 years old. He was only 42 at the time, and he was a diabetic, and he had some other conditions which developed just shortly before he passed away. And in hindsight, I wonder if my father's diabetes, which is also a common result of hemochromatosis, if he had the same thing, but it was left undiagnosed. But Yeah, I was basically diagnosed about 6, 7 years ago when I turned 50. And this is one thing I wanted to point out to your listeners. Actually, this condition is quite common. And most people who have it, it's estimated they'll never be diagnosed. And the crazy thing about it, it's really a simple test. If your doctor is checking your blood, they should be aware of your iron levels. And I had doctors in the past who made comments to me who said, I think one when I was like 28 said, "Oh, you have a lot of iron in your blood." And that was it. And later on, when I was 39 or 40, I had another doctor say, "Oh, you have a lot of iron in your blood. Maybe we should follow this." But they never followed up on it, and they didn't recognize it for what it was. And fortunately, because of my work, I was commuting to a different city during the week to work, and because my wife kept putting pressure on me, get a new doctor, and fortunately, this guy, he was a good doctor, and at the first visit, he was asking a lot of questions, and he did all of the tests. And the crazy thing about it, Adam, is he took all these blood samples, whatnot, and that weekend when I was commuting back to where I live, I was listening to another podcast, and there was a marathon runner, and he was talking about hemochromatosis, how he had so much iron in his blood. Well, anyways, the next week, when I went back to the doctor for my results, I said, "Hey, I had 2 doctors in the past tell me I have a lot of iron in my blood, and I just heard this podcast about hemochromatosis." And he said, "Yeah, you know what? I think you have it."
Now, were you symptomatic at this point? Was anything going on?
Yeah, basically the early symptoms of hemochromatosis are usually like fatigue and joint pain. Yeah, I was always worn out, but here's the deal. At that time, I just turned 50, and I was waking up Monday morning, getting on a train for 3 hours and going to a different city all week. And then Friday afternoon, coming back home to see my wife. And and I was doing a lot of stuff. I was doing sport, working, this and that, and I was always tired. So I just added it up that, hey, this must be because I'm living this really busy, hectic life. Mm-hmm. But in hindsight, this was most likely due to the hemochromatosis. And unfortunately, one of the other early signs besides fatigue is the joint pain. And I don't put all the blame on it because I was very active when I was younger, but basically my hip joints were wrecked, and my knees are also wrecked. And a few years ago, actually, when I was 51, I had to get both my hips replaced.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Basically, what happens, all this iron gets spread out through your body, and it's basically your body gets rusted. And so in our joints and our bones, there's blood circulation, but it's not coursing through your arteries and veins. Yeah. There's circulation, but it's quite low. And it's more I'm not sure what the correct term is, but let's say small capillaries. And these things are really prone to getting rusted up. And so what happens is, you're basically your hip joints, your knees. A lot of people will get problems with their fingers. That didn't happen to me. But basically, the joints will basically rust up. The circulation will be very poor, and the bone tissue in the joint and the cartilage basically dies off. In some cases, some people, their skin actually gets a bronze tone to it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Not the recommended way to bronze your skin. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I prefer the sun. No. Yeah. So the cool thing with the hemochromatosis, if it's diagnosed early, I don't remember the units, but let's say the numbers I sort of have in my head. But basically, whatever units they measure it in, you should have like your level should be below like 50.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, like normal people, because of their diet, they might have like higher levels. But most people who reach like a level of something like, I think, 1,000, they've gone into the danger zone where not only are they suffering from fatigue and joint issues, but they start getting like liver issues. Yeah, they have problems with their heart, diabetes, as I mentioned before. And when I was diagnosed, I was diagnosed somewhere between 600 and 700. And fortunately, I didn't have any, or they didn't recognize I had any major organ damage. But the cool thing about the whole hemochromatosis thing is when you're diagnosed, the treatment doesn't require any medications or any surgery. You just have to donate a lot of blood.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's some medications out there which will like cause some binding of the iron with the whatever drugs they give you, and
Mm-hmm.
this will also reduce the levels of iron in your body. But they're like all pharmaceuticals. There's like some side effects, and in all honesty, I'm not familiar with those side effects because I wasn't interested in taking any pills like that. But basically, yeah, it's like old-fashioned bloodletting. Yeah, they're just taking a lot of blood. I think in the first few months of my treatment, let's say in like 4 months, 5 months time,
Mm-hmm.
they took about 2 gallons of blood from me. So I'd go in, every 2 weeks, and they'd take a little bit more than a pint of blood from me.
And that still going on?
Yeah, this will never end.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
but not at that rate, fortunately. So now instead of every 2 weeks, I'm actually donating blood about every 2 months. And actually, on Tuesday, a couple of days ago, I actually did my last blood donation.
And is this blood that can be used anywhere else, or is it too high in iron?
In the beginning, which was quite sad in a way, was the doctors, they would just like, yeah, I mean, to be blunt, they would like drain my blood and just like dispose of it. And basically, what happens through this process is when they remove blood from your body will generate new blood. And within your blood, you have hemoglobin. And hemoglobin is the part of your blood which is responsible for transporting oxygen through your body. And in hemoglobin, you have iron. So when your body doesn't have enough blood, your body says, okay, we need to make more blood. And as it's generating more blood, it's also creating new hemoglobin. And to do that, it's taking all of the stored iron in your body and using it to regenerate this hemoglobin. So with time, my iron levels return to normal levels. And basically, about 3 years ago, I stopped going to the normal doctor's office and started going to the university hospital here in Hamburg and donating blood.
Wait, you said that your iron levels return to normal?
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. So every time they take blood out, your body makes more blood.
Right.
And as it's doing that, yeah, the overall level of iron in your blood and your body reduces. Your body's never making more iron. You're just like your body's absorbing iron from what you're eating. So if it's left untreated, yeah, basically you get like an overdose of iron, which eventually will kill you. Like I mentioned earlier, most people will not get diagnosed with this. And there's a lot of people who have it. So it normally affects like people of European descent, specifically are people with like Scottish or English blood, but which I have, but that's only like from half my family, and the other half of my family is from like Eastern European countries. So basically, most people who will be affected will be like of a European descent. And yeah, if they're not diagnosed, yeah, they might end up getting like a liver disease or some cardiac problems. And most of the time, they'll be treated for like the liver disease or the diabetes, but the underlying cause will not be identified. And then it just like the iron continues to build up and build up and build up. And then one health problem turns into another. Most people, when they're diagnosed, they're in their 50s. And if they're like diagnosed later, they're like well into the danger zone. And that's not a good situation.
Have you had a blood transfusion, or is that something that would work in this case?
No. Yeah, my blood, with the exception of having the tendency to have too much iron in it, is good blood. So getting blood from another source is not like going to help. So yeah, now I just have to donate blood, about every 2 months. And if I keep doing that, I'll be helping a lot of people out. So it's actually kind of an honorable disease to have.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't call it disease. I would say it's more like a genetic condition. So it's like an honorable genetic condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the end, I'm helping a lot of people. Yeah. And, to go back, just to say something briefly about my creative life, one of my core values is doing good. So
there you go.
This conditions in alignment with my creative life philosophy.
Right. And again, you said like for other people, like if you're using your blood, is that giving somebody else too much iron?
No. I mean, in all honesty, most people actually don't have enough.
Right. So, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like anemic or borderline anemic. Yeah. I mean, most people who are like anemic, maybe I'm going a little bit out of my zone of expertise, but let's say they have like a B12 deficiency because they're like vegan or vegetarian. Those people quite often have not enough iron. So if one of those people were to get my blood, which would be like at a healthy amount or maybe a little bit more, they're going to profit from that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Win-win situation here.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a cure for it at all?
No. Maybe one day, if they could edit someone's genes or something, maybe that would solve the issue. But if you're going to get something in life, then the hemochromatosis is a good thing to get. I'd rather have this condition than something serious like diabetes or liver disease or some kind of dementia, because the iron will travel across the blood-brain barrier and will also get stored in the brain. But the only negatives are when I do donate the blood, it takes about 2-3 weeks where my physical capacity is somewhat reduced. And for me, it's like, I really dislike this because I've always been very active throughout my life, and I'm doing a lot of sport. And basically, I'm cycling. I'm doing walking with my wife. I don't run anymore because I have 2 artificial hips. My knees are also, basically on the end. But I'm swimming, walking, biking. I'm doing going to the gym before work 2-3 times a week. Like I said, I donated blood 2 days ago, and now tomorrow night I'm going to Bikram yoga, and this could get ugly.
At Bikram yoga, especially.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing Bikram for 10 years or something, maybe longer, and I go once a week normally. Now and then I might go twice a week. But even through the initial stages of my treatment, or they were taking blood from me every 2 weeks, I was still going to Bikram. And yeah, as you know yourself, Adam,
Yes.
it's like, yeah, it's surprisingly I had some good classes, but at other times, yeah, like I was definitely like feeling like I was going to die.
Yeah. Any activity you start at 104 degrees is, you've got to be careful.
Yeah, exactly.
Prepare yourself.
Yeah.
What about diet? Do you need to have a lower iron diet now, or does?
Yeah, that's like an interesting aspect of it because, iron is like basically in the diet is like impossible to avoid because, you know, nuts and seeds and grains, they're also um, absorbing, minerals and metals like iron from the earth. Because a lot of people have an iron deficiency, you've probably noticed like on some cereals or granola or like whatever, they'll say like fortified with iron.
Right. Yeah.
Then they eat vegetables, the same thing. They're absorbing like the metals like iron through the earth. And the big like culprits are like red meat. Yeah. So red meat has a higher level of iron than say something like a chicken. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, there are people who like try to go on a low iron diet, but the danger of doing that is it's like a give and take. If you try to go on a low iron diet, then you have to start making like compromises. Like, there might be things like you enjoy. I mean, I'm a meat eater. I grew up as a meat eater. And, if I have to like give that up, then I'm like making a personal sacrifice. But at the end of the day, anything that I'm going to gain from like reducing my iron intake from my diet is minimal compared to the effect of donating the blood every 2 months. So you could never achieve a low enough iron diet to where it would stop me from absorbing too much, because my body, everyone needs iron. So basically my body absorbs the iron it needs and everything else gets stored unless I'm going through the treatment. And this bloodletting, blood donation is far superior to any minimal benefits I'd get from like eating a lower iron-based diet.
Here's a question I ask all my guests is, and you kind of talked about this, I think, but what are the benefits of this? And you did mention that it's kind of, you're doing good by it in some way by giving blood, but I'm just curious, anything else in terms of the experience of having it, dealing with it, or anything like that?
Well, one, like I mentioned already, if you're going to have some genetic condition or develop some illness, I wouldn't want to trade places with anyone else. So, hopefully this will be my only thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I was diagnosed quite early. And also it's made me really aware of like the importance of taking responsibility to become more aware of your own health situation. Because like I said, there were two doctors when I was like 28 and one when I was about 40, they made these comments, they made this observation, but they didn't follow up on it. And I've learned through this that you have to like take responsibility to monitor your own health and to educate yourself and to make knowledgeable decisions like on health issues, like who's the doctor you're seeing. And for instance, because of this like educational process, when I had to get my hips replaced, I looked into it. I picked out my own the hip replacement parts myself, and then I looked for what I thought would be the best fit for me. Like I said, I'm still doing yoga, so I have great hip replacements. I have no complaints about that at all. And I picked out my own doctor. I looked around the world in the States and within Europe and India, who are the people who are doing this. And basically, it's taught me to educate myself and to be more knowledgeable about my own health, and not to rely on like other people, because like all things, perfumers, doctors, there's going to be good ones, there's going to be average ones, and there's going to be exceptional ones. And it's up for us to make wise choices.
How do you think this relates to your path as a perfumer or even as an entrepreneur?
Fortunately, it's not a real obstacle, except for like the day after donating blood. There's like a bit of brain fog, bit of like fatigue. So it's not just affecting the sport or me like working out or something like that. But I noticed like a bit like brain fog for a day or two. But beyond that, I'm actually quite grateful that it doesn't have any like negative impact on my sense of smell or being creative. But saying that, just yesterday night, I had like this complete mental blackout because I'm living here in the city and I couldn't remember where I parked my car. So
No.
maybe it was the blood donation. I don't know. Yeah.
So what's in the future for you? Are there any new things other than this book, or?
Yeah, well, basically, the book is like the work is, that's like the bread and butter. And I do love it. So it's more than just the day job. I'm really like grateful that I get to be creative. So, because for me, like, I have this part of my thing is I try to make cool things every day. And so for me, that's like, at the moment, writing the book. It's also about making art. And so I have kind of a easy way out. Like, I mean, most days I'm doing those things, but if I'm not working on a new piece of art or writing the book, at least I have the option to be creative at the day job. But basically, the book outside of work is my main priority at the moment. Once the book is finished, that I'm going to build out the website, and I hope to turn this into like a successful community website for people who are interested in niche perfumery and emotional fragrance design.
Cool.
So that will be the next step in that project. And
does it have a title, the book?
At the moment, the title is More Than a Nice Scent, a perfumer's perspective on emotional fragrance design. Mm-hmm. And the website, is emotionalfragrancedesign.com. And at the moment, it's a landing page to introduce people to my writing in public project. So people are signing up for that. And also I'm a visual artist. So in, I think, in 4 weeks, I'm not like a famous artist, but I'm making art, a few different kinds of art. So I'm really into printing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of I'm influenced by artists from the 60s and 70s. So minimalist artists, Bauhaus kind of art. And I try to combine that with like modern influences from like street art. And I do a lot of photography where I photograph like, graffiti, concrete walls, brick walls. And I take these urban surfaces, which for me are like a metaphor for like imperfection, and then I combine these photographs on the computer with transparent like geometric forms, which are inspired by the artworks from the 60s and 70s. And for me, these are like kind of an illusion of perfection, and I call this like combination perfectly imperfect. And so I'm doing that kind of work, and I'm also doing woodblock prints, and also like inspired from the artists from the 60s and 70s, like geometric forms. And I'm printing these onto cardboard. And the interesting thing about printing on cardboard is the surface is very irregular. So I get these really cool effects which, once again, is like kind of like this perfectly imperfect. And basically, those are the two main things I'm doing with the art. And in a few weeks, I'll be showing at like a local art expo. And so I got that going on also at the same time.
Cool.
And plus, one more, I'm doing too much, but I'm getting it done somehow. I also organize a group here in Hamburg, the Creative Connection. And this is a group which I formed for people like myself who are doing creative side projects.
Uh-huh.
And because I find that a lot of people who are making art, writing books, doing photography, making music, want to become, I don't know, YouTubers or something like this. Their friends and family don't really understand it. And so I made like this like group where people like myself could come together and we share ideas, we help each other overcome problems. This is a big part of not a big part, but a significant part of my social life. So this is something I always try to develop because through this, I've met a lot of really cool people, especially musicians, other artists. And this has also opened up a lot of doors for myself. So yeah, busy.
That's great. God, I wish there was something like that happening here. If you're ever in Texas.
Yeah. So where are you based, Adam? In Austin or?
In Austin. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Actually, I'm like really jealous, man.
Hamburg's not the place to be.
Well, I'm still, I've lived half my life now outside of America. I'm still only an American citizen. Yeah. So I haven't given up my citizenship and I haven't taken any others on, but I have no intentions of moving back to the States either.
Is there anything more you want to say about hemochromatosis?
I think the only recommendation I'd have about hemochromatosis is that it's a very common genetic disorder that is more often than not, it's not detected. It's not diagnosed. So if you are of European descent and you get a regular blood test, it's not going to hurt to ask your doctor, what are my iron levels looking like? Because if they seem to be high, then I would recommend people inquire, is this dietary or could this be hemochromatosis? Because, like I said, it's more often than not, it's not diagnosed. And if it's not diagnosed, people die too young. And it's completely easy to avoid such a unnecessary early death. And the treatment isn't that bad. And like we mentioned before, the treatment in kind of a good way is a benefit for other people.
Good to know. Well, thanks for talking with me. And I wish we had a lot more time to talk about the perfume side of things. But maybe I'll leave that to other perfume podcasts.
Okay. Yeah.
And shout out to Karen Gilbert. That's how I learned about you, was on her perfume podcast. And so I'm sure I'll be in touch off the record about other perfume things and creative things.
Yeah, no problem, Adam.
Well, all right. Thanks for listening, and thanks again to my guest, Scott Moroschan. You can learn more about him and see what he's up to at scottmoroschan.com. I'll also include other links in our show notes. You can find that and sign up for our newsletter at friendswithdeficitspodcast.com. If you're interested in helping support Friends with Deficits, as well as have access to unreleased material and just be part of that community, check out patreon.com/friendswithdeficits. If you know anyone who has a good story, maybe someone in the perfume world or any world, this world, and would like to be a guest on the show, they can reach out through our Instagram, Friends with Deficits, and at the website. You can also visit me at AdamSultan4U, that's number 4, letter U, on Instagram. I hope to be in touch. Once again, I'm Adam Sultan. Stay perfectly imperfect.